Hello and welcome to the Move Me Brightly podcast. My name's Tom. I'm here with my co-host Blayne. Hi, Blayne.
Hello.
Together we have over 32 years of combined experience in the creative industry, and it hasn't been easy. We've had to put in long hours, climb the ranks, and do the jobs nobody wanted to do, all in hopes of one day living our dreams of living creative lives with creative careers. But you know what we discovered? Living the creative life you always wanted isn't all it's cracked up to be. Every day is full of inspiration, creative problem solving, and that can lead to burnout. This podcast explores the way in which top people in the creative industry move forward in a career they love while finding new ways to infuse creativity into their lives and work and keep that creative passion alive. Join us weekly as we have those conversations and walk away with nuggets we could all use to stave off burnout and continue to produce better and better work. And also just come hang out with us because it's going to be fun.
Welcome to the special Move Me Brightly episode with just Blayne and Tom.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. So, big night in the Macaulay household. Fantasy football is starting. And
Yes.
Oliver and I are in a league together, but not on the same team.
Oh, so you're going to go up against your own son at some point.
But I've also been having to help because the ESPN fantasy football app is, you got to kind of get used to it. This is my third season playing. I've yet to win, but
I'll just say it. The ESPN fantasy app is terrible.
Well, that's true.
It's terrible. I think Yahoo Fantasy is for sure the way to go.
Now, what if they were just seconds away from sponsoring us, ESPN?
I love ESPN Fantasy. That's my preferred app. I use it all the time. I've used Yahoo now for like a decade or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I started a new fantasy league. I used to be in a couple a year. The last few years, it's just been one fantasy league, like a 12-team paid league that I'm normally in. I feel like when you have too many, like your interests get scattered and you're like, all right, I want this person to score a touchdown or the defense to force a fumble and run it back. Like, yeah, it's too much.
It's too much.
But I joined a second league this year that's all film, like industry people. I was invited to join it, and they're doing the ESPN app. So I had to download it, do the whole thing, and I'm just looking at it like, ugh, you basic bitch.
Are you thinking you're going to school these film nerds?
Well, it was funny. One of the guys is a composer, and his last name is Johnson. Mm-hmm. And we had our draft on Sunday. And it was half in person at this friend's house, half over Zoom. And this guy decided to just do a bit, and he drafted every player with the last name Johnson. So his entire team is Johnson.
Now, surely he's come up with a funny name. I'm sorry about the dogs. This is not going to be.
This is a casual episode.
It's a casual. The dogs aren't casual. They're going to be kids in here. Anyway, did he come up like 90% of the fun of fantasy for me is the naming of the team?
Yes. His name. So the guy's name is Max Johnson. Shout out Max. And his name is Max Big Sweat Making Suckers.
Okay. I'll give it a 4.
And since it was a film related fantasy football draft, my team name was 2018 Oscar winner Green Book. Which I was no one laughed, which is fine. Where I'm actually playing this guy, the Johnson team, this coming like for week 1, and I am projected to get 128 points. He's projected to get 59. Like his first round pick was like a backup tight end for the Saints or something. It was wild. And he would always intro, like when it was his turn to pick, he'd always like stop down the whole room and be like, thought about this a lot, giving this pick a lot of consideration. And then he would like, he even picked a free agent kicker. I think he has 3 kickers on his team.
Yeah. And kicker is, certainly a clutch position. Now half of our draft was in person too, because my brother's on the team. So me and my brother and Oliver were all drafting together. And there was some little shit talking going on, which I thought, was appropriate. But I did a lot of stupid things. Usually when I'm drafting my fantasy, I like to be alone or with someone who's just helping me, you know, so I can say all my stupid things. Like my main strategy the last couple of years is to pick all former Georgia players. Not a good strategy, but you know, I continue to use it just out of loyalty.
I mean, you need to have some thing that's just for you. I always make sure to draft one Patriot player at some point, even if it's a reach, you know, like I need one on my team.
Yeah. Well, my number one former Georgia player this year is Nick Chubb, who I love.
Great.
And my team name is Hot Chubb Time Machine.
We have a mutual friend, Ryan Flaherty, who I'm in my other league with.
I was wondering.
And it's like all the team names are supposed to be related to the band Fish in some way. And so he named his team this year Baldus Chubb, which I thought was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good. I think I'm actually playing him this week too.
Ooh.
I have finished in the finals. I think the last 4 years in that league, I've made it to the championship game.
I could see that.
I'm on a bit of a hot streak. Dave is in it. Yep.
Does he
Ryan
take it
McDonald.
Seriously?
Oh yeah, he's the commissioner.
Of course.
He doesn't fuck around.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we would have asked you and Jimmy to join. I had no idea that you did fantasy football. Jimmy doesn't. No.
But
okay.
Yeah, I like it.
We'll have to get you in next year.
It's fun. Totally. Do you think any of our friends listen to this podcast and just hope that we maybe say their names?
No.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Based on the lack of uptick in the ratings, the reviews and star ratings. So far, I would say no, nobody's listening. We're speaking into the ether right now. We can talk about whatever.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple listeners.
We have a few.
Yeah.
We have a few. I was actually in a Zoom meeting, a business meeting earlier this week, and one of the guys in it just had such a deep, milky voice. He was an exec for this company. And I just, as an aside towards the end of the meeting, I'm like, by the way, do you do podcasting or like audiobooks? Because you totally have the voice for it. And he said, yes, I do. And then another friend who was in the meeting was like, Tom also has a podcast. Tom, go ahead and plug it. So I just mentioned the name. And then a few of them texted me saying they had downloaded it and we're going to take a listen. So hello to you guys.
Grassroots marketing.
Hello to Shahjahan and Charlie, if you're listening.
Hello. So diarrhea update.
Yes, diarrhea plane.
I dug in further after we spoke of it last, and I was wrong. It is not an American Airlines plane. It is a Delta plane. So I'm sorry to American Airlines for that egregious error. I also saw a photo. Now, I don't know if it's the photo that you saw, because the photo I saw
a video. I saw a video.
This was just a spot on the rug. It's a child under there.
I mean, you're talking about diarrhea, so I feel like that's the moment for a child to like perk up to attention.
Yeah.
But child doesn't love to talk about poop stuff.
Yeah, I've got her plugged into her iPad, so I think that was just an errant sneeze.
Oh, okay. I didn't even hear the sneeze.
Oh, yeah.
Listeners, Easter egg. Tell us if you heard the sneeze and then timestamp it, and you'll win a free painting from Blayne.
No, wow. Wow. If you heard the dogs, don't timestamp it. You win nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, just
sticking with us.
Just please ignore our immaturity and just move on. So yeah, you saw the photo.
I saw the photo, and it did look like it was contained to just sort of one area, which, whether that's true or not, I am going to go with that in my mind, since I am boarding a flight on Saturday that I hope does not have a diarrhea outbreak on it.
You are boarding a Delta flight though, right?
They had to land the plane and rip out the carpet.
Of course.
Because they had sprayed it with a vanilla scent.
Oh, God. That's the worst. Whenever you try to cover some disgusting smell with like a scented like Lysol spray or whatever. What is it, Febreze?
Yeah.
Like those like tropical sunrise Febreze and like
Mhm.
you try to cover up cat piss. Now it just smells like island cat piss. It's
Yeah.
just horrible.
Yeah, someone said it
Worst.
smelled like vanilla diarrhea.
Yeah, that's so odd. That's even worse than just regular diarrhea. Because I don't want to associate vanilla
No.
with that at all. Now you're ruining vanilla for me, which by the way, I don't know. I hope we agree on this. Vanilla is a flavor. Vanilla does not mean plain.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a flavor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard people say like plain ice cream and referring to vanilla, and I'm like, don't you dare besmirch the wonderful flavor of vanilla.
Especially a
Vanilla is one of the top
vanilla
flavors.
bean.
Vanilla bean is incredible.
When you get a little bean in your tooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put some pinto beans, mix it up in the vanilla ice cream. You got yourself something.
I visited a TCBY today for the first time since the early 90s.
I didn't know those still existed, to be
do.
honest with you.
They do.
Wow.
Yeah. Now they have scoopable, what looks like ice cream, but I was corrected today and they said, no, it's yogurt. And I think she was just pulling my leg because it.
But doesn't the Y stand for yogurt in
Yes.
TCBY?
Yes, but they
What are the other acronyms?
Oh my gosh. I used to know. Today's best.
That would be TB.
Today's cultured best.
The country's best yogurt. The country's best yogurt is what it stands for.
You know, yogurt's a gross word.
Why?
Just like.
I don't mind the word yogurt, but I don't like the word go-gurt. That little like on the go yogurt snack.
Oh, I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you get it a lot for your kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want a go-gurt?
Just sounds gross. Ugh.
Grab a go-gurt.
Ugh. It just makes me think of like yogurt on the go. And I just don't think yogurt is a food that should be eaten mid-travel. Like yogurt is for the home. It's fresh out of the fridge directly into your mouth. There's no car yogurt. What is that?
Listen, I'm tracking on all of this since you know my fear of food. I don't like a yogurt getting hot. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So like I'm
oh wow, that's I can't believe you said that. I personally love it when yogurt gets piping hot. That's my favorite snack in the world.
But you said go-gurt reminds me of to-go yogurt, and of course it's supposed.
Yes, but that's what grosses me out about it.
Yeah,
is that concept of yogurt on the go. I'm like, no, yogurt is not. You take a scone on the go, you know?
Yeah, a gone.
No, it's just you can just call it a scone. You can toast a bagel, smear some cream cheese on it, wrap it up in a paper towel, eat that in the car. It's gonna get a little crumbly, but whatever. You vacuum.
Jimmy likes a to-go banana.
I love to go bananas. I love bananas in all forms.
Mario Kart it when you're done?
No, I'm not an asshole.
Animals.
Your husband's clearly an asshole.
No, I do it. There's a lot of woods in Atlanta. So like if you find the right street when you can get it over into the ivy, I feel I'm giving nature a snack.
I think if you put it in nature, that's fine. I remember there was one time I was driving with a friend and we were on the highway and I did that with a banana peel. They were like, what the fuck, man? I said, it's biodegradable. They're like, not on the asphalt, you idiot. I'm like, you know what? That's a really good point. I apologize. You're 100% right. So that's my mea culpa to the earth. Yeah. I apologize. I've done nothing else wrong to Mother Earth. I'm watching my carbon footprint.
Are you really?
No.
Yeah. No. I feel bad.
I recycle. I don't, when I go to the movie theaters and I get a soda cup, like for the dispenser, I don't get the lid or the straw. I just get the paper cup. I feel like that is in some small way helping. And I do it. I'm like, I'm so fucking proud when I do it too.
Yeah, of course.
Oh God, you have no idea. I'm like, no, you know what? Not for me. No, thank you.
I'm above.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, by any chance, there's a video of a sea turtle? and some marine biologists are like, have pulled it out of the ocean and the sea turtle is harmed and it's got something in its nose, and they get a pair of pliers and pull this like long thing out of its nose, and it's a stirrer, like a coffee stirrer, one of those tiny little straws. And the woman who pulled it out like lost her mind on why do we need coffee straws?
Like the actual plastic stirrers you're talking about.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I thought I don't think I have ever used one of those in my life. I mean, I generally take my coffee black anyway, but in
As
the
we've
instances
discovered,
where I don't, you just throw the lid on there and do a little shake, right?
Yeah. You know, sometimes in a
Or
cocktail,
if you're using a straw, you just use the straw to stir.
yeah.
You
Well,
don't
and
need
they
additional-
come in cocktails too, like mixed drinks, you know?
But isn't that normally because they have like a blue cheese olive like speared on the skewer
Not
or whatever?
necessarily.
See, I don't like that either. Bartender, do your job and mix the drink before you hand it off to the customer.
Well, it's just trash because, or you're like doing that awkward thing where you're like holding the straw down
While you sip,
you know, or you take it out and it's just trash.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only benefit of it is maybe it becomes a de facto toothpick. That's it. You know, you have your cocktail, you're eating some spaghetti, you get a little piece of red pepper skin in your teeth. You use that little mix, the little.
It is
thing.
good for that. It is good for that.
Yeah, it has a sharp point.
Yeah.
Or as a child, it was great to play like sword fight with your siblings.
Yeah.
Do the little like mini fights.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think that should be the next government bill.
Just
get rid of stirrers. No, especially like we don't need to use all this plastic for fucking stirrers. How delicate are we?
Yeah.
You need a little stir for your drink. Come on, get out of here.
Yeah.
Just chug the thing like a man.
How far do you think we are from bring your own straw places? Because I feel
I know a lot of people who do that. I have a lot of friends who do that. They have a little like zip bag with metal straws that they bring to places. Like when I meet friends for coffee, they'll have their straw that they like pull out of their purse or whatever. Which I think is great. I mean, for me, I think it's great if you're a woman and you carry a purse. For me, who doesn't carry anything and just has pockets.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there yet, unless I could do it like if I'm wearing a collared shirt like this with a little breast pocket, I could just throw the straw and have it poke out.
Yeah.
Maybe like draw a little smiley,
like
a little smiley face on it. You're like,
yeah.
You want some coffee, buddy?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's good. I don't think it'll ever be enforced though.
I don't know where I stand on a bag of metal straws. I think I'd just rather not have a straw. Just don't give me a straw.
I do think liquid tastes better through a metal straw than a plastic straw because it keeps it cooler.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're drinking like a hot drink, no one uses a straw for a hot coffee. Unless you're a serial killer.
Yeah, it could melt the straw. Yeah, but then if it's metal, it could keep the heat. I don't know.
How hot is your coffee to melt a metal straw?
I don't want a metal straw. I was talking about a plastic straw.
Oh, plastic straw. Okay. Or those new paper straws that they did.
I'm not a paper straw. I'm not for that. I'm not. It makes me angry. No
straw versus paper straw.
It makes me so angry. Sometimes when they do the like little natural ones that look like a reed, those are okay. But a paper straw, I can't get behind.
Your life is blessed if that makes you that angry.
Yeah. It disintegrates in your mouth. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you can make a spitball out of it.
Nope. I don't want to do that. Just leave me.
Pull out your metal straw. Pull out your metal straw from your purse. Make the spitball out of the paper straw that just disintegrated and spit it back at the server. You know?
That's what you get.
Yeah, because we all know all of this is the fault of the servers, and they deserve all of the blame.
Yeah.
Yeah. We stand by that. That's a Move Me Brightly officially endorsed statement.
Yeah.
Blame the wait staff.
Yeah, it's usually their fault.
Yeah, I agree.
recently heard a story about Ludacris, a great Atlanta native. We're so proud to have him. He went to a restaurant one time and ordered the spring rolls, and he didn't like them, so he sent them back. And the waiter goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he goes, "Hey man, no worries. Spring rolls are not dependable." And I've decided I really want to adapt that in my life.
Yeah, I like that.
They're not dependable. I mean, spring
You never know
rolls
what you're
can
gonna get.
go, a multitude of ways. It's a gamble.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think that's the breading part of it is what makes it unpredictable? Because I
There's
think
no
the like
breading in a spring roll. That's an egg roll. A spring roll has that like rice paper. I mean, it's unpredictable.
oh yes,
Like
yes,
gummy kind of. I'm
Yeah.
not. Sometimes I'll go to a restaurant with someone, they'll order the spring rolls, and I'm like, "Oh, good," but I,
Oh, good. And then you write in your little note like, never hang out with this person again.
Oh, a spring roll.
Yeah. They also like Chinese restaurants have like the lettuce wrap
Mhm.
appetizers, that just has like leaves of lettuce and you put like the chicken and veggies and wrap it up.
Mhm.
Do you ever fuck with that?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Every once in a while, I'll get a real good lettuce wrap. P.F. Chang's actually has a great lettuce
Yeah,
wrap.
they do.
They're really
It's
good.
weird though, because like I always think of it when I'm looking at a Chinese menu, but the reality is whenever I'm in the mood for Chinese, I'm in the mood for some like down and dirty Chinese.
Yeah, correct.
Like
And
I'm
you
not thinking of the
also,
healthier option.
you don't know like the weight of that lettuce. That's a gamble, just like a spring roll. Like, or what if they give me a butter lettuce? Then it's just go on me,
Yeah.
and I don't want, what if I'm wearing a nice outfit? It's hard. It's tough.
I mean, they could give you like a kale and then it becomes like a little treasure hunt. Like you just throw
kale.
everything and it like slides in between the leaves of the kale.
Sometimes kale, you find a grit in there, like a little.
No.
And kale, you don't ever find like a little sand?
No.
I don't really eat kale for that reason. In
Because
a smoothie,
of the sand.
yes. In a smoothie, sure. But in a
Yeah,
salad,
the sand gets ground up.
Yeah, kale smoothie all day. But a salad, I just get a little sand piece usually.
I don't think that's a thing, Blayne. I'm sorry. I don't think
to me like many times.
I mean, maybe it's a supplier issue.
But not like at my home, like out and about at nice restaurants. You can get a little piece of sand in there.
Maybe that's like the southern spin on kale.
Kale might be grown in sand. I'm gonna look it up.
Well, if that's true, then I just look like a fucking asshole.
I'm gonna look at my other screen here. I have 3.
You have 3 screens?
Mm-hmm.
What's on the third one? Your fantasy team?
Nothing right now. Is kale grown in? Here's the top things: the ocean, in India, in Nigeria, in the UK, in summer, in shade, in the wild. Is kale grown in sand?
So no sand. Sand was not one of the top.
Wait. The flavor and texture of kale will decline. Oh, never mind. Will decline when grown in light sandy soils. You go to a restaurant, it's not grown in a. Well, shoot.
Well, unless you're going to a cheap ass restaurant.
Let me ask my Twitter.
That's getting their sand kale.
Yeah.
I'm sure sand kale is much cheaper. But I think you were validated somewhat because there is a mention of light sandy soil.
I mean, you can Google anything, right? And it'll somehow validate you.
Yeah, that's true. See if I just Google. I just typed a bunch of random letters in my keyboard and hit search. I typed the letters EAORFIGHAEOFDG. And the first result from that was the state of Georgia. How about that? It's like they know I'm talking to you.
Speaking of knowing that you're talking to me, did you hear this new piece of news about China banning Apple phones inside the government buildings?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's because they think that iPhones are listening to them, which
Of course they are.
of course we all know. Anyway, Apple stock really took a nosedive on that news yesterday.
Yeah, China's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just government buildings.
Yeah. Do you in your head ever say China?
Like Donald Trump?
Mm-hmm. That was my Trump impression. China.
China. We got a big problem with China. That's terrible. No, I don't. No, I don't. No.
It's ruined the word for me.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like with Trump, it's more, for me, it's more like if I repeat something I just said, I'll think that I just like did a Trump thing. Like I got a podcast recording very soon. It's real soon. That's like a Trump thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We got to go record very soon. So soon. Like that. That's a Trumpism to me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a specific word.
Yeah.
Although maybe the way he used to say wrong in the debates.
How do you say it?
Wrong. He would like lean
good.
into the mic and say it, you know?
Yeah.
Just a little one-word response, like while the other candidate's mid-speech or whatever.
Yeah.
Wrong. What a fucking idiot.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Did you know? Oh, actually, the way that my mind got here, I could never explain to you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll try. I was going to ask you if you ever thought that Donald Trump might be an alien. Then my mind went to, I believe that there are certain people living on the earth who are aliens. And most of them are members of the Church of Scientology, which got me to Danny Masterson, who's a member of the Church of Scientology, who today was sentenced to 30 years in prison for being convicted of rape.
2 rapes, I believe.
He was accused of 4.
I think he was on trial for 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sentencing actually just passed, because I saw yesterday he was about to be sentenced and he could face 30 to life or whatever.
That's what he got, 30 to life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess if that theory were true, that there were aliens living among us disguised as humans, and the majority of them, in your opinion, are Scientologists.
Yes.
Don't you think they'd have a way to protect him?
Yes.
So what happened? What went wrong?
There are some holes in the alien story.
In their story?
No. Like in my alien
in your theory. Oh, okay.
I wonder if he insulted the aliens somehow. And maybe by raping women. Could be.
And they were like, hey guys, we agreed we weren't going to do anything like that.
Yeah. You know, I'm torn on it because all I know of Danny Masterson is his character on that 70s show, which is obviously not him. Right. But I did like his character. And so I'm a little like, no.
Like, you find it hard to believe?
No, I'm just like, oh, shoot. He was so likable on that show and now he rapes women.
Well, I think that speaks to a larger thing with people and their relation to celebrities. Like, you get attached to people and characters and roles that aren't the real person, but that becomes your relation to them.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's like, yeah, your specific example is a case of a much bigger, I don't necessarily want to say a problem, but a much bigger thing in the world, where like there's just a story that broke out about Jimmy Fallon today, where a dozen of his former employees came out and said that he had a terrible workplace environment, that he was mean and aggressive and abusive, like verbally, to a lot of the staff. It was something like 16 crew members from The Tonight Show. And that just came out today. And Jimmy's reputation to the world is this fun, lovable guy who laughs at everybody, is best friends with everybody in Hollywood, loves to play silly little games. And all these people are coming out saying that he was a total asshole.
And that happened to
Yeah.
Ellen too.
Yeah. I mean, Ellen actually faced the music on it though,
Did
which I
she?
feel like it is rare. Yeah. I mean, she lost her show because of it. She basically retired early for that reason, because the blowback was so harsh. I feel like it's so often those types of people, though, the people who front face as very gregarious and nice and jovial are the ones who are more often than not hiding that darkness to them. Same thing with James Corden, the other late night talk show host. Do you
What's
know?
wrong with him?
Similar thing that happened with Fallon. He was called out for being an asshole to his crew.
So if I had a talk show,
Mm-hmm.
I think that people would say I'm an asshole.
Why do you say that?
At work, like when I work, I'm just not very like warm. I'm just not very warm.
Do you know your coworkers' names?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was their
Okay.
boss. I know a
Corden
lot about him. And if we I would take them out to drinks and dinner and stuff. And at that time I would, I'd chat and we would be like friendly. But I did sort of maintain I was cold. But I just don't like to mess around really. When I'm working,
Well, I think that's fine. I think there's a difference between maybe being a little cold and distant versus being rude and a bully,
yeah.
Like, I think it's one thing if you divide the line between like, we're not necessarily friends, but you do your work and I'll do mine and everything will be fine, versus chastising or publicly ridiculing a person underneath you, which I don't think you're that type of person.
I would never.
Yeah. I mean,
never.
it was interesting. It was interesting with the Corden stuff, because when it all broke out, this clip started to circle the internet, which had happened months or maybe a year before on his show. And he had another talk show host, Jimmy Kimmel, as the guest on Corden's show. And they did this segment where it was basically like truth or eat. And it was a table, almost like the reality show Survivor. They always have one challenge every season where they have to eat like really disgusting food, like live worms or whatever. And it was that with Corden and Kimmel. And there was a plate of different disgusting foods. And one person would ask the other a really intimate question, and they could choose to answer it, or they would have to eat whatever disgusting plate of food like happened to fall in front of them for that round. And on the last question, Jimmy Kimmel, and keep in mind, this is a TV show. This isn't like, you can't just say shit on the fly, and which I think is the most condemning thing, because that means this question had to pass through Corden's production team to make it to air. Kimmel's last question to James Corden was, can you tell me the first names of the two cameramen filming this segment right now? And Corden looked around and laughed and ate the food because he could not do it. And those were the cameramen that had worked with him for years. And he did not know their names. And I feel like that alone is pretty damning. If it's one thing, you don't have to be friends with your employees, but to not have the basic decency to be able to say like, hey, James, how's it going? Or like just the occasional, like, thanks for doing what you do,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty telling sign of someone who isn't a great boss. So I don't know. And
if
then
you're
of course,
an entertainer, do you have to be a great boss?
I think in the past, no, but I think times have changed, which is good. I think there was a lot of douchebaggery that used to go on in Hollywood that you could get away with because you were a draw or you were a star and you were popular, and so people would put up with it. But I think those days haven't totally disappeared, but I think there's a lot less patience for that now.
Yeah.
Which I think is good, because fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to have to put up as an employee of a person with years of abuse or neglect just because they're the star of a hit TV show. Like, that's horrible. No one should have to deal with that. So,
one thing that I find triggering, we'll throw back, about the Danny Masterson case is that these rapes were things that he had committed. The rapes were crimes he had committed 20 years ago. And he's now facing the music for that. And that always, something about that is always like slightly unsettling to me when something like you know, do you know what I'm saying? Like I always, something about the passage of time there is always, if someone's going to be tried for something, I think I would prefer for it to have happened like recently, which.
I mean, I think the victims would have preferred it to happen immediately too.
Yeah.
Though, you know, I don't know the specifics of that case and why it brought up now, but I know like historically with a lot of sexual assault cases, victims are afraid to come forward or they're worried about being shut down, especially if it's against someone who has influence. And I think the Me Too movement changed that dramatically and gave victims the courage to come forward and know that they'll be listened to, you know,
except in the Johnny Depp case.
with Amber Heard.
Did you watch that?
The trial? No, I like tangentially saw bits and pieces of it on Twitter. What I could glean from someone who did not pay close attention, I'll say that up front, is that there was a little bit of like co-abuse going on there, maybe between both of them, right? Yeah.
Well, I watched the Netflix series, so I don't, I'm not the expert on it, but it did seem like a very codependent kind of insane situation.
Yeah. Which is never great.
No.
But like, I know as a producer, for me, one thing that I always make sure to do before I go on set, especially if I'm working with a lot of new people, is just memorize people's names. And if I haven't yet had a chance to see their face before I get to set, I always make sure to introduce myself. A, because I'm the producer. And I'm like, if you have an issue, come to me. But also just so I can clock them, so I can say hi to them at the beginning and end of each day. Like, I feel like that's the absolute minimum you should do as someone in charge, is to foster an environment where people feel like their time is well spent being there. Like, I would never want somebody who works, and I don't even want to say they work for me, but like someone whom I've hired to work on a job feels like they're not respected, or their time isn't valued any more or less than another person. Like, I feel like that's just, I've worked in desk jobs where I've had that feeling before from bosses, and it fucking sucks. Like, it's the worst feeling in the world to think that you're just a throwaway and you might as well not even show up. Like, you don't really need to be there, Like, I just think that's a terrible like feeling that makes that, I mean, for me anyway, puts me into like a whole existential spiral.
Totally.
Like, what am I doing with my time on this earth? Like, they don't even know I'm in this office right now. Like, why am I here at age 28 doing this? This is terrible, So like, I always think like you should, at the very least, and not to say like if someone is a problem or someone has a bad attitude or is like creating drama with other people, that is not addressed, obviously. But I feel like you always have to meet someone in good faith as a start and go from there. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
Because I think it's interesting that like Colbert or Conan, who have this on-air persona of being more like sarcastic and dark, but you never hear anything bad about them. Quite the opposite. Conan has a reputation of being like one of the most generous people in all of Hollywood. I mean, he pays full staff fees during strikes. When he got fired from the Tonight Show, part of his settlement agreement for however many millions of dollars to leave NBC and give the show back to Leno included a clause to pay all of his writers a sum total of like $10 million or something like that. Like, he goes above and beyond to take care of his crew, but he self-presents as this cynical jackass,
Yeah,
it's weird.
it is weird. I think Taylor Swift is really kind of changing that in a lot of ways. And I'm not really a huge Taylor Swift fan.
You're not a Swiftie?
Not really, but everything I've ever heard about her it's just like, I think she's doing things the right way.
Well, I mean, it didn't do much to change the game, but she was a big factor in Spotify upping their artist rates, because she was withholding her music from the Spotify catalog. until she negotiated a contract that benefited all publishers on that platform. And I also know, like, in terms of Scooter Braun, her former rep, who basically bought all of her IP from underneath her, and now she's re-recording all of her albums, so she holds the music license for that. I mean, that's created a snowball effect where he's losing clients left and right now. Like, big names are dropping him all of a sudden. I think it's directly because of that shadiness that he did with Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift was just like, fuck you, I'm going to re-record this and tell all my fans buy this version instead. So you go broke with that investment, you know?
Yeah. She also refused to, I don't know the details, but like shill crypto that Kim Kardashian was doing. She was just like, yeah, no, that seems sketchy. Crypto is sketchy.
Yeah. Well, I remember reading about that. She asked for some statement that proved, like, basically like showed a paper trail of how the investments were happening. And I think it was FTX, the company that went under, right? That wanted her as an endorsement. And she was the only one who asked for it. And they were like, "Ooh, don't have it." She's like, "No, then no. Are you fucking insane?" It's so weird how many people jumped on that. The crypto and NFT and all that is, it's weird.
It's weird.
I have a friend, a very dear old high school friend, who is all in on Bitcoin, like 100% all in on Bitcoin. And he doesn't do it anymore because I've told him enough times that I'm not interested, but he used to really push to try to get me to invest in it, and would send me links to websites where, like, you can write articles here, you're a really good writer, and they'll pay you in Bitcoin, and like, look at what the stock value is, like, this is such a steal for you. And I'm like, I don't know about it, and I don't need to know. Like, I'm fine. You know, I don't need it. I just don't need it. But thank you. But yeah, he's in really deep. So I hope it works out for his sake. But
yeah.
And then there was the New York mayor, Eric Adams, who, when he was elected, said that he was going to take, I think, half of his paycheck in cryptocurrency, and was the first politician who was going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't get it. The blockchain, I don't get it. I've tried.
Yeah, I think what's ironic about it, as someone who does not fully understand it, but the idea behind it was unregulated.
Yes.
Right. There's no central bank or government backing behind it. So it was like by the people, for the people. But then when it became really easy to hack into shit and steal people's money and like steal people's NFTs so easily, then they were screaming for regulation. Because of course, if that's what you want, fine, but it's going to be the Wild West. You have to go in knowing that, like, there's going to be that risk if you don't have a solid foundation backing you, you know?
Yep.
I don't know. Crypto shit. It's also just, crypto to me is so boring. It's so boring.
Okay.
Like, I just don't care about it, you know? Maybe from a sociological perspective, it's fascinating.
It's not that fascinating. It's not that fascinating.
I mean, I just think as a period in history, in terms of like what it says about the myth of the American dream, I think that aspect of it is interesting, because it seems to me like it's a get rich quick scheme, but it's mainly for people who are already wealthy. So it's a way for rich people to try and get richer. I mean, my friend who I mentioned, my high school buddy, is not wealthy, and he's all in. Like, he's a devotee of this. So I know there are people like him out there, but I think a large chunk of it is just millionaires looking to get the jump on the next big financial trade option. And I just don't know, like, what intrinsic value it has. Like, what real world value does that mining of all these computer engines do? Like, what does it provide? I don't. Maybe I'm stupid. I just don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. Yeah. But it's hard for me to understand things that I can't
see.
Yeah.
You're a visual learner.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, I've gotten into the New York Times daily puzzles.
Oh, I love them.
Mm-hmm. And there's one called Tiles.
I know it well.
I am like, that specific skill of doing that specific tile thing. I am like exceptionally good at doing that thing. And they like tested me in school, and I got like on that thing, I got like 100 percentile. Everything else was like average, right? But
They tested you this week at Oliver School, you mean, right?
no, when I went to Oliver School.
Okay.
But I've always been like, yeah, I'm really good at like that kind of space, being able to like see a shape and then reorient it in my mind and like put it back in kind of like a puzzle piece. And so I just found that game and was like, finally, like something really.
Does it bother you that there's only one every 24 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have the Wordle app now, like the game, so I can Wordle my face off. But that pattern thing, anyway, the kids are dyslexic, and I was like, I bet they can do this. So I call Oliver over, and I wasn't like, you've got to do this and you've got to do this. I was like, see the shape, find it in something else, then find something in that's somewhere else. And he was like, okay, and like could do it. And then I gave it to Quinn, who's 7, and she could do like 8 or so, 8 to 10, which is pretty good. And then we gave it to Jimmy, and Jimmy was like, I can't do it. Like, what do you mean you can't do it? And he was like, I don't mind. I can't. And then he was just like, take the phone. I can't even look at it.
Jimmy's more of the what's the other game where you have like the box of letters and you have to create words out of them?
That might be my favorite one.
I love that game. There's also a new one that's like 16 words.
I don't get that one.
It's really fun, but some are much easier than others.
I don't like have all the instructions, or I don't understand.
Yeah, you have to find the commonality in 4-word groupings, right? So you create 4 blocks of all the connecting words. I think yesterday's was the easiest because they were all just movie titles. So I noticed immediately that 4 of the words were Harry, Sally, when, and met. And I was like, oh, when Harry met Sally. And then I saw like Max Fury, Mad Road. And I was like, Mad Max Fury Road. So that one was super easy.
Oh, I couldn't even get one on yesterday's. Not one. I was like,
oh, really?
Thought it was
but
something
they
to
show
do with like
they
a
show
plant.
you they show you the results at the end, so you can see what you should have been looking for, right?
I didn't know how to get to the results. I like that. I don't understand that puzzle.
I think that's my favorite game on that New York Times app currently. Because it's probably just because it's so new. But also I think it makes your brain work in a different way because the groupings can be so unorthodox. Like one was just words that sound like the word you. And it was like EUE, YOU, YEW, and the letter U scrambled within there.
Things like that. I'm like Jimmy with the thing. It's like, I can't really do it. But the spelling bee, I spend a lot of time on the spelling bee every day. I keep going back into it. I'm going to find another one I like.
I hate that you have to use that center letter.
I know. I can make like 100 every day if I didn't. And then every once in a while, they'll put an S in there. That's a little treat. Yeah.
Just pluralize everything.
Yeah.
Sweats. Got it.
Sweats. Yeah.
Nailed it.
That's 2.
You get to double up on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. The worst is when it's like an M. Like, what the fuck am I going to do with an M?
Yeah. I think today's was an A.
That's not bad.
Just like fine, but
yeah. I think any vowel is decent.
Yeah. The first letter or the first word I found on today's spelling bee was death.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it because your 40th is coming up?
Could be. I don't know. Death.
I know we talked about this a little bit on a previous episode, but you're going to be a woman in your 40s very soon.
Yeah.
When's your actual birthday?
October 14th. So
in about a month, a little less than a month and a half, or even less than a month by the time this comes out. What do you feel? How do you feel about that? A woman in her 40s. How does that make you feel when you think of that?
So I've certainly grappled with what it means to be a woman in her 40s. I've had a much harder time with it than I thought that I would, because I've been saying I'm in my 40s for the last 2 years just to get ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of it. I'm sad because I haven't done as much as I wanted to do. I sort of thought I would be further along in something. I really have had all of these sort of illusions of grandeur my whole life, that I'm going to be some kind of like famous artist or do something and be well known for it, or change the world, or have like a show that is, like a museum show or something. And just haven't done those things that I really have wanted to do. And then you're like, well, that's okay. You still have time. And you're like, but in 30 years, I'm going to be 70. And the 30 years just seems like no time. Like, I just feel like I just had my son. I don't feel any different of an age than when I was when I had him. And he's 9 now. And I don't even know where that time went. So I think it's just feeling a little bad about myself, or like I have kind of let myself down some. And then there's also like physical, like changes in my face or my body, or things that I wasn't really prepared for. And everything seems to be happening kind of like all at once. Like, I feel like last year I was still kind of young, and now I'm like, I'm old. Like, I have a ton of gray hair now. I mean, things that I wasn't expecting so soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not really the fact, I mean, it is a little bit, because you bookended that with talking about the physical changes, but it's more like the aesthetic goal-oriented ideas that you don't feel entirely fulfilled by. Because if we were going to relate this to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have food, you have shelter, you have safety, you have financial security, you have friends, family, loved ones, people that care about you. So like, those are the first 3 of the 5 stages of needs, right? So those are covered. You succeeded in those things,
Mm-hmm.
And then I think beyond that is when it goes to like feelings of accomplishment, self-esteem, stuff like that. The more psychological or philosophical needs, that's maybe where you think things are lacking a bit.
Honestly, like, financial stability, my financial situation moves a lot because of different like independent contractor things, or different work that I get, or seasonal work, or things like that. And I feel a lot of insecurity, like my financial stability could be gone. Like, I don't feel super secure in that. And I think that a lot of that is just, I have chosen to pursue arts, which aren't, highly lucrative things. So yes, financial stability, but like, I have a big fear around like lack of money, or never having quite enough money, or and that's part of it, is just kind of like, I always thought growing up that my parents were like, had money all figured out, right? And it's still something that like I think about on a daily basis, of kind of, is it time to give up on this like dream that I have, and just try to get, a real, like, some type of job that is stable enough that I could live with it and find a little bit more stability there. But I just have this like weird belief in myself that I'm always going to sort of make it okay, or,
Mm-hmm.
that the next big thing is around the corner. And that's not, I don't know. I don't feel super secure. Like, I don't know what the next year or 2 years or 10 years really looks like. I don't know about like paying for the kids' college or things like that. And I think that as a group of people sort of around the age of 40, I don't know a lot of people who are financially secure, actually. I mean, people don't have like equity in their homes, like maybe our parents' generation did, or they don't have, I mean, everything is so expensive. When I went to TCBY today, I got 4 kids cups. It was $18. Like, how can someone make enough money to even keep up with how much life costs? I did a poll on Twitter recently and was like, how much money would you have to make every year to just feel like you were okay? And the overwhelming answer was $250,000 to $300,000 to just like get by and like not go into debt or whatever. And as a 40-year-old woman who has only really ever had like a marketing job, you know, I don't feel like I could go out and I don't think I could go out and apply for a job that makes $250,000 a year, because I've been in my job for 17 years and I was the boss, as I said earlier. So I delegated a lot of things like building a CRM or the nuts and bolts of putting together the back end of a website or campaigns, you know, things that I actually don't know how to do. I hired people to do them because I was the boss. And if I was to go to a major corporation right now and try to get a job there, I would have to be like an intern, because I mean, no one's going to hire me parallel to the job that I used to have. And I think that I actually go over and over and over it because I have the experience is worth something, but my actual skills are very like vast, but there's no job that's like, oh, she's worth, you know, a livable wage and I should pay her for that, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think too, that number, that $250,000 number, because I know like, I was going to ask this question, you kind of mentioned it by bringing up your kids' college funds, is would you have as much financial insecurity if you didn't have children? And I think the answer to that would probably be not nearly as much, at least, maybe still some, but children are expensive. And I know like for me as a single bachelor who doesn't have any kids, that $250,000 number, even for Los Angeles, I mean, it would be very comfortable, but I don't even need that much to live okay, where I'm not stressed about money, even in a city like this, because I have cats. Those are my responsibilities. That's way cheaper than children, you know? So those are cost factors that I don't have to consider. So I can only assume, as someone who is the mother of 2 children going through school right now and planning for their futures like that, that has to be a major factor in these thoughts that you have.
Yeah, the kid for sure. And then I also just was born in a fairly affiliate area where I still live. I live like 10 miles from where I was born. And I've just chosen a life that perhaps would be better suited for like not a booming, like very
Metropolitan area.
nice area within a metropolitan area. So like the cost of living here and just sort of the things that you need to live here, like property taxes are insane, you know, and I mean, the kids like sports and stuff for their schooling. And I mean, it's just like every single day costs like $1,000 for me. It's just, the money just goes. So I don't know, but I know I'm not alone. And I know that the entire, like you look at the numbers of people our age and but like inflation and debt and student loans and things like that, like the number of people who are just with families or without families, I found that so much in the trading world as well. Like no one started trading really from the 200 people I've interviewed. No one's ever been like, oh, I'm just doing it to get rich. It is like, I'm just trying to make a better life for my family, or just, you know, get like a leg up, or make this money stretch a little bit further, or whatever it is. It feels like a nationwide kind of epidemic of.
Yeah, I mean, inflation, cost of living has gone up exponentially versus the average payable wage for an employee. It's making it really hard to make a living, you know, and that's why, like, I think that even this mentality has changed a little bit with the previous generation, but that's what used to really bother me about, you know, yours and my parents' generation, who would complain about stuff like that. Like, my kid's 24 and he still lives at home. You know, at that age, we were married and had a home. And it's like, dude, it was a different world. It was such a different world back then. You could be a baker and buy a home in the suburbs. Like, if you're a baker now in Los Angeles, you have to have 3 roommates and rent an apartment.
You're making $40,000 a year.
Yeah,
so,
there's no way you're paying to rent a place on your own, let alone earn enough to put a down payment on a house. Are you kidding me? That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of that among my friends is literally laughable. The thought of buying a home. It's like, it's treated as a joke because they just know it's a reality that the vast majority of us will never reach, ever, you know? And it's just a different time now. And like, it sucks. And I think that's why there's a lot of union action happening right now to try to make a change in that. Not just in the entertainment industry, but like hotel workers went on strike. Column Coffee, that chain coffee place, those workers just went on strike and are trying to unionize. Obviously with UPS, we saw that earlier this year. Like, I think people are just fed up with that because it shouldn't be that difficult to find a place for yourself to lay your head down at night if you work an honest job, you know.
Totally.
If you put in your hours and make a decent living, like, you should be able to have that. That's part of what this country's supposed to be about. But I mean, at the same time, I think as someone who's an outsider just looking at you, I would say visually, you look the same as when I first met you.
Thank you.
Over 10 years ago, you know, and you do. Like, yeah, I don't see any change in you. And I also think, like, your life as someone who doesn't live it, from my side of the camera, seems pretty good. Like, you have a following on Instagram for your artwork. You have a home. You have 2 beautiful kids. You have a loving husband. You get time to do the things you want to do, like paint and photograph and everything. And you get to go to your son's football games. You know, you get to be a present parent for them.
Yep.
I think a lot of people who struggle financially don't have the opportunity to do that. I don't know. I think you're kicking ass from where I stand.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But it is weird turning 40. I mean, maybe I just turned 38, so maybe I got to start saying what you did 2 years ago.
It's how
Start telling people I'm in my 40s.
Yeah, I'm 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are like, you look so young. I'm like,
hey.
hey.
No stress in my life, baby.
I went yesterday to get my Botox update, and my sister-in-law told me that next time it's time to start putting Botox in my lower face. That's a sign of aging, I believe.
To get the jowl uplifted.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
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 Just walk around like this all the time. Do like the Marlon Brando face in The Godfather, you know, when he's got the orange peel in his mouth. Girls are coming. I have a lot of things to talk to you about.
I think it would look good. Yeah.
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 So you just do Botox in the forehead right now?
And my eyes.
And your eyes.
Yeah.
Is there any
in my eyes?
Around,
right there.
like the what do they call it? The crow's feet.
Crow's feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
the only
is there,
thing that really bothers me is the crow's feet.
like, on the edges of your eyes?
I don't like it. Yeah.
It's so weird to me because I feel like, you know, a lot of women say, like, when they dress up or dress nicely, like, they're not doing it for the men, they're doing it for other women, you know, because they're the ones who really notice these things. Is that the same thing with stuff like Botox? Because I feel like as a guy, I would not care or even notice if a woman had crow's feet when they, like, smiled and shut their eyes.
It's just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jimmy could care less. Like, he actually wishes that I would stop. It's not for him at all. But I don't like going into the bathroom in the morning and feeling like I look tired or old or anything like that. It really, like, I stopped doing Botox during the pandemic. And there were just times where I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, I don't look like me. And that's a really weird mind trip. I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Botox take care of like bags under your eyes as well?
No.
No.
It also
you don't really
doesn't
have those.
You mentioned jowls. It doesn't actually, like, I guess filler has to do that, but I'm scared of filler, so I'm hoping to avoid that.
I mean, they should just shove a stapler down your throat, just like staple it all up, you know?
Yeah. I think that's what facelifts are for.
Yeah. Or they could even do that on the outside for me because my beard is so bushy. Just throw a couple
Yeah.
staples like right in here.
Yeah.
No one would ever notice unless a girl was like playing with my beard and then like cut herself. Like, yeah, those are the staples. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just for me. It's not for other women at all. The clothes for other women, but the wrinkles are just so I can like leave the house feeling okay. Well, we are coming to the end of the hour, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring us back around to the one thing I wanted to discuss today.
Diarrhea plan?
No.
Oh.
So I want to go into this topic by saying there are times I have these certain movies in my life that I play. They just are movies that will just take me out of my head and make me better. Every single time will do the trick, which is lovely. One of those movies is It's Complicated. And one of the reasons is because of Alec Baldwin's character in that movie. Just so lovable. But every time I watch the movie, I think about Alec Baldwin killing the person on set, which is what I would like to talk about.
Okay. So we went from a comfort movie to the manslaughter.
Well, it hurts it for me.
Before we get into the actual event that happened, just so I can remember, It's Complicated as the one with him and Steve Martin.
Yes. And Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. And then it's a little love triangle between them, right?
Yeah, but he is the ex-husband, Alec Baldwin is, and he's having an affair with his ex-wife who's trying to move on and get with Steve Martin.
And Meryl Streep is the ex-wife.
Yes.
Okay. I need to watch that movie. I've heard it's good.
It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Nancy Myers.
Yeah, Nancy Myers is great. Before we get into the Rust shooting, what is it about It's Complicated that pulls you out of that anxiety?
Mostly the interior design of the movie.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the kitchen is just
to die
perfection. And she's renovating the kitchen in the movie, and you're like, that in the bathroom, like the home is just perfect. But all of Nancy's movies are like that. The interior is a character, and I am just obsessed. I mean, As Good as It Gets. Isn't it As Good as It Gets with Diane Keaton?
Yeah, and Jack Nicholson and Greg Kinnear.
Yes. That house in the Hamptons like started a blue and
Is
white.
it Diane Keaton? Helen Hunt is in As Good as It Gets. Is Diane Keaton also in it?
Then that's not the name of As Good as It. There's two movies that I get confused. Helen Hunt is in
As Good as It Gets.
Yes, with Greg Kinnear. This is Jack and Diane and Keanu Reeves.
Oh, John Mellencamp.
No.
Little ditty about Jack and Diane. Sucking on to the dog. 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 Blayne is Googling the name of the movie, so everybody knows.
Something's Got to Give.
Oh, okay.
I get it confused with As Good as It Gets. You can, I mean,
a lot of G's. Both have two G words in them. I've seen As Good as It Gets. I've not seen Something's Got to Give.
It's not as good. Wait, no, sorry. Other way. Something's Got to Give is great. As good
as
as
good
it
as it gets is not as good as something's got to
something's
give.
got to give. Yeah.
So
And
it
it's
was not, in
good.
fact, as good as it could get, is what
Correct.
we're learning.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I
yeah.
like Nancy Meyers movies, so I'll check that out. Maybe I'll watch It's Complicated tonight.
It is. I just love it so much. And Alec Baldwin's as hard as he can Alec Baldwin. And when he is Alec Baldwin King, I'm just like, you're a funny guy.
Yeah. I mean, one of my all-time favorite sitcom characters is Jack Donaghy in 30 Rock.
Mhm.
Alec Baldwin's character in the show 30 Rock. He's so fucking funny
He is so
in that performance.
funny.
It's incredible. There's an episode early on in that show where Liz Lemon, Tina Fey's character, comes into his office and he's wearing a tuxedo. And she walks in and she just looks at him and is like, Jesus, Jack, what's the occasion? And he just looks at her and he's like, it's after 6 p.m. What am I, a farmer? Such a good joke. It's so good. Okay, but to speak of the shooting incident.
Do you want to know the other movies?
Oh,
then we
yes,
can go to
yes,
the
please.
shooting.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I also really like the movie Couples Retreat.
Is that Adam Sandler?
No, it's Vince Vaughn and the guy from Ozark.
Is that the one that turns into like a weird mystery thing?
No.
Okay.
No. Anyway, it's a great movie.
You like the feel good rom-com.
Yeah.
type
Also,
okay.
we bought a zoo. Really,
Bought a zoo.
really like that movie.
We bought a zoo. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, but It's Complicated I've probably seen that movie 40 times.
I think I used to do that a lot with movies. I would rewatch the same movie over and over again. When I was younger, I don't really do it that much anymore, except for like when it comes time, which is happening now, the Halloween season starts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of rotates. It's not every single year, but I'll watch like Halloween 4 every 2 or 3 years, something like that. But
yeah,
I don't know, whenever I decide to sit down to watch a movie, I'm normally like, my mode is always like, I want to find something I haven't seen before,
mm-hmm.
and like expand my vocabulary of cinema,
Mm-hmm.
like that's kind of what I'm looking for.
So
generally.
Jimmy and I were talking the other day about how the genre of romantic comedy is kind of dead.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy claimed it's because of like political correctness, because a lot of the older romantic comedies, he said, he just thought they couldn't be made today. I don't know if I agree with that, but I do agree with the genre.
Yes, I agree with the
Yes.
thesis statement, which is that the romantic comedy is dying. For sure, I agree with that. I don't think that's necessarily the reason why. I think the reason why is because, at least theatrically speaking, studios have transitioned into either super low budget genre projects that can potentially turn a huge profit, like a $3 to $5 million horror movie
Mm-hmm.
that can make 60 million,
Mm-hmm.
or a big $150 million blockbuster. And there's really no in between for those like $20 million studio dramas and comedies anymore. They don't really happen that much. But like if you're on Netflix releases a lot of original romantic comedies. There are a lot of teen rom-coms. There are a lot of adult romantic comedies that go straight to Netflix. They're just not really out in theaters anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the byproduct of that is movies that go straight to streaming don't get promoted.
Yeah.
So you don't know that they're out there unless you happen to be scrolling Netflix and you see the little image pop up and you're like, oh, what's this? I'll check it out. But there's no like anticipation.
There's no anticipation. And I kind of like you, I'll see a preview for one of those and I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like if I'm going to watch something, it's going to be a serial killer documentary. Like, I want to learn more about serial killers, not like, let me give this a try. And then a movie, it's a little sad because I'm like, what if I love it, but it's not a show? And then did I waste an hour and a half of my life because it's going to be over?
Which is so weird too. I agree with that feeling, but it's so interesting to me to have that, because when I go out to the movie theater, and maybe I'm alone in this or in the minority, but when I go out to see a movie, I never have that anxiety of it being a waste of my time.
I agree.
And and maybe it's because it's the experience of getting out of the house, going, getting snacks, sitting down in a big theater, all of that. So even if the movie sucks, like I'll have the thought of like, oh, that movie was bad, but I never have the thought of like, what a waste of the last 3 hours of my life. Why'd I bother doing that? I never have that. Versus if I put a movie on Netflix and it's terrible, I'm like, well, there's an hour of my life that could have spent watching episode 4 of Midnight Mass or whatever thing I'm watching, you know?
Yeah.
I will say though, there is currently a romantic comedy in theaters right now that is excellent.
What is it?
I just saw it a few days ago. It's called Bottoms. And it is about these 2 high school girls, best friends, who are lesbians. And they both have crushes on 2 really attractive, hot, like popular girls in the school. And I think they're going into their senior year. And one of the girls that the main characters are attracted to has a boyfriend. He gets injured over like some happenstance that's kind of bullshit. And to get out of trouble, these 2 main girls say that they were just starting a self-defense class. And he got hurt incidentally because of that. And so they basically start in their school a fight club for women. That is the idea behind it, you know, inauthentically being like female solidarity. We have to like prepare ourselves for like aggressive men or whatever, but it's really just to get into these other 2 girls' pants. So it becomes a fight club where like these women bond together. They all get along. The 2 hot girls join the club. Like there's some friendship and romance that starts with that. And then things go off the rails, but it's really good. It's really funny. It's R-rated and it's super bizarre. Like the reality of the world is so heightened where there's the whole like upcoming conflict that kind of funnels the plot of the movie is this homecoming football game between their rivals town or whatever. And this rival town is like going around beating the shit out of people, like hospitalizing them. And they come to find out like, oh, every time this team plays one of our teams, they murder one of the football players. And like, we have to put a stop to it. So like it gets really heightened and absurd, but it's really well written, really funny. And unfortunately, it fucking bombed at the box office. So
that is unfortunate. A lot of, I feel female-led comedies still are like, sometimes will bomb just because it's women.
Yeah. I mean, there was that Jennifer Lawrence rom-com that came out over the summer, No Hard Feelings, that R-rated movie where like she's paid to start dating a high school kid. Yeah. And that was supposed to be like the big return of the romantic comedy in theaters, and that didn't do very well. So it's a bummer. I mean, maybe the audience with a movie like that, I think maybe in general, a lot of audience members just think it's not worth the effort. Like I think a lot of your average moviegoer have equated going to the theater with seeing a spectacle. And if it's not a spectacle, they can just watch it at home.
What did you think about The Fabelmans?
I like The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot more interesting than I maybe expected it to be. Like I feel like it's obviously about Spielberg's upbringing, and I feel like he was way more candid than I would expect in a biopic by Spielberg about Spielberg.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot darker than I thought it would be.
I really, like, you asked about turning 40. I really identified with the mom in that movie. Not that she left the family. That was sort of like neither here nor there, but like she was like her own person and artistic. And like, I just very much felt like I understand what that woman's going through. And it's, you know, when you have children, you're no longer like, well, I could just go to, you know, Europe for 3 months and just like follow this passion of mine or whatever. And sort of her torment within that. And I just thought like that was actually really brilliant.
Yeah, your individuality is kind of put on hold.
Yeah.
To raise a family.
Yeah.
I liked her character a lot too. I mean, who wouldn't run away with Seth Rogen? Like, what a guy.
I mean, what a guy. Totally.
But I also liked that Spielberg, you know, the character that plays young Spielberg is kind of portrayed as a person who's like, you're going to have to make the choice that your mom had to make, which is like career or family. Because in reality, you're not going to be able to have both successfully.
Yeah.
And he chooses career, you know, but like that choice is basically laid out for him. Like you're going to have to make sacrifices at the cost of your personal relationships to get to where you want to be, which I think is really fascinating. Like I was not expecting that necessarily from Spielberg.
Another like strange parallel is there's a lot that the kids will tell me, and I know it's true, that sort of like they think that some things that I do that are creative are kind of magical, not just being able to move things with my mind, but like they think that like the podcast is magical or going to my studio is magical. And this is all, it's like, I know that for them, I am an artist who is like making it work. I'm a like, and I really like that for them. But then it's also a strange weight of, I want them to know that this work I'm doing is important. And this, is a fantastic way to live. And I want them to like really understand the magic of it. But maybe sometimes I even make it slightly more magical because it's like so important to me. But when he, as a little boy, was looking up to his mom and she just embodied the magic, I was like, I know that I know the kids look at me like that. And that's a lot.
Yeah. But more positive than negative, right?
Yeah. And it's what that's the experience I want for them. Like when they get in the car and go chase that storm, and then the mom has kind of a breakdown or whatever, I understand that feeling of like, let's have this experience and sometimes you can go a little far, and she does go a little far with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being an artistic mom it's a balancing act.
Do your kids still believe in Santa?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should fly down when my beard is fully grown.
Yeah.
Dye it all white.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep it alive for 1 year. I mean, Oliver's at an age where it could be any moment now.
I know.
I mean, as Donald Trump would say, at 7, it's marginal. Do you remember that phone call he had with a little kid?
No.
When he was president, they did this like PR thing where him and Melania were talking to children over the phone about Christmas, and he was talking to a 7-year-old girl, and he said, "So do you still believe in Santa, little girl?" And you don't hear her response, and he just goes like, "Yeah, because at 7 it's marginal, Dude. Of course like what a story for that little girl. Like the president told me Santa Claus wasn't real when I was 7. I learned Santa wasn't real. I learned 7 wasn't real super young. Super young.
Sad.
I think I was like 5 or 6.
It's really sad.
Yeah. My grandmother from Holland was staying with us in New England, and my parents gave her my bedroom. Or not my bedroom, my bed. I shared a room with my brother. And so I was sleeping in the little like loft above the kitchen, which was just like an open air loft. So there was no privacy, no doors or anything. And I went to bed and I could hear all the adults, like my parents, grandmother, my uncle my aunt, my uncle-in-law, all talking and like drinking. And so I came downstairs and I saw them all like wrapping all the gifts and stuff. And I just remember my aunt looking at me and being like, "Go back to bed. Shh, you didn't see this." And I was like, "I fucking saw it. God damn it." It was so devastating. It was so devastating.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But so you wanted to talk about the Alec Baldwin thing.
Yep.
Okay. What do you want to talk about specifically? My opinion on it?
Well, I don't understand why there was a loaded gun on the set.
I don't think anybody does. It's a horrible, I mean, to call it a misjudgment doesn't do that justice, because the chain of command it had to go down to allow that to appear on set is catastrophic. Like I personally think so. I produced a project 2 weeks ago, and it was a project about a mass shooter. And so we had an AR-15 on set. He never actually fires the weapon on camera, but we had to have him holding it, walking into the restaurant, leaving the restaurant, walking along all the broken debris of the restaurant with the gun in his hands, all this stuff, like pulling it out of his truck, everything. And the way we operated was I went to a weapons vendor in Los Angeles and I made sure to rent a replica AR-15 that is non-firing, meaning you couldn't even put bullets or blanks in it. It will not operate. It won't function at all. So that's what we did. And even with that understanding, every day we held a safety meeting at the top of the day before we started working, where the first AD gave the announcement that there will be a weapon on set. We explained the chain of command for the weapon, which there are only 2 people who should ever hold it besides me, the producer, who will take it home at the end of the day and bring it to set each day, which is the actor who carries the gun in the actual filming and the props person. Nobody else should ever touch the gun. We also gave people the opportunity at the top of each day, if you have any concerns about the weapon or if you want to have a closer inspection of it yourself to make sure what we're telling you is accurate, you can come to us. The prop person will hold it for you. You can check the chamber, you can check the magazines, you can do whatever you want to make sure you feel comfortable with it. So we did that every single day, even though we had basically the same crew each day. We made sure to make that announcement every day. And then the weapon immediately went to the prop person. And they held on to it until the first shot where we needed the gun on screen. And once that happened, the first AD made an announcement that the weapon is arriving on set to remind everybody now it's in play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as that happened, before we would roll, the prop person would give the gun to the actor. The actor would use the gun. They would roll, they would shoot, they would cut. The actor would give the gun right back to the prop person. Never exchange it hands with anybody else until they were wrapped for the day. They gave it back to me all bagged up. I would take it home. On Rust, I think there's a slight difference because you are using firing weapons. So a lot of productions will use blanks to simulate the effect, the smoke effect, the recoil of an actual firing weapon. But what happened on that project is crew members took the prop guns and started firing them with real bullets, like after shooting, like after wrap, they would take them out into the woods or whatever, or out into the desert, and they would do target practice with the production guns, which is such a major no. Like that is something that as a producer, if you ever saw that, those people are immediately fired. Immediately. No questions asked. You are fired for cause and you're blacklisted. Like you don't work again, you know, at least not with that company or those people. And I think what happened is they went out target practice and the prop master was negligent in their job and didn't check the chamber for the proper rounds to make sure there weren't blanks, or to make sure they were blanks instead of real bullets. Handed it off to Alec Baldwin. He fired him. We know what happened. But I think
Why
the
did
biggest
he fire it at a crew member?
So the shot in question, he was supposed to fire it right next to the barrel of the camera. It was basically a point of view shot where the camera is looking at Alec Baldwin. And I believe the way it was set up was the camera was supposed to portray the person he was going to shoot. So it was almost like the camera is the perspective of the person getting shot by Alec Baldwin. So the director told him to aim the gun just to the side of the camera. So like 5 inches away from the actual face of the camera, which is where the DP was sitting, holding the camera. The director was right behind the director of photography. So he aimed it right at the director of photography because she was sitting right off the side of the camera. So he used her as a mark. And a lot of times they'll do that in shooting where if they want your eye line to be close to camera and the DP is sitting there, a lot of times they'll say something like, I want your eye line to be like right here on my forehead or my eyebrow or my ear, or they'll put a piece of tape right off the actual like body of the camera and say, look at this tape, that's your eye line. So I'm assuming they said something like your eye line is the director of photography's cheek or her nose or eye or whatever. And so that's where he was aiming, looking right at her, and shot her. Not only did he shoot her, but the bullet either grazed off her or went through her and hit the director, who is right behind the director of photography too. So, I mean, it was literally like a point blank, you know, unintentional assassination, basically, is what happened, which is horrible. And I think it speaks to a larger issue of the idea of using blanks. I think in general in filmmaking is something that we just have to do away with. And I think we need to move towards a system like we did for my project, where you get weapons that are incapable of firing, because there have been so many advances made in visual effects. Actors know how to use props, know how to use their body, that can simulate a recoil, and then you just VFX the explosion of the gunpowder in the actual shot. I think to have that happen once, and it's happened more than once, obviously in the past. It happened with Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow before. I know it's happened one other time on a project I'm blanking on right now, but for it to happen once is too much.
Yeah.
I think we just need to get rid of that system completely, because if the chain of command is wrong, the effects are obviously devastating. Like that girl she wasn't even 30 years old. Not that her age matters, but she had her whole life in front of her, and for it to happen because a prop master was negligent is just awful. The end.
The end.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I'm curious. What I'm curious about is to look at, like, I would love to know, say, a movie like John Wick, where probably 5,000 rounds of bullets are shot on screen in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
How they went about shooting something like that, because those movies are so gun heavy, but they're obviously safe where nothing bad ever happened. I don't know if they used blanks or if they did something like I said as a workaround, but yeah, maybe there's just too many guns in movies too,
Could be.
like this fetishism with gun culture in Hollywood. Maybe we need to move away from it a little bit. Just go back to good old C4 explosions.
Sure.
Just rig some bombs. Good old fashioned days.
Like Speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a movie called Retribution with Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
That's out in theaters right now. And it's kind of like a Speed. A guy plants a bomb underneath Liam Neeson's car seat,
Mm-hmm.
and basically says, like, if he steps out of the car, the pressure will release and the bomb will go off.
I gotta watch that.
And he has a hand controlled trigger as well, that if, like, you don't do what I say. So he has an earpiece, and he's basically, this guy is slowly framing Liam Neeson to make it look like he's assassinating all these other people with car bombs, like putting him at the scene of crimes and stuff like that. But it very much is Speed vibes, but Speed's better.
I can't watch a lot of movies with Liam Neeson because they're all the same to me. I'm like, oh.
I know, but that's what I like about it.
Oh.
I like that Liam Neeson is his own genre of, like, he's just the man up against the wall. He's going to work his way out of it.
All right. Well, this is a great episode.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Little hangout.
We'll hang out.
We will be back with a guest next week. Go watch Thursday Night Football.